Anastasia, also known as Topsy, Douris, was born in the UK of Greek parents and is passionate about history and genealogy. Her interests have led her to compile her family tree with branches in Ikaria, the UK, and the US. She enjoys assisting others, and she was the driving force behind the Ikarian DNA and family tree initiatives, as well as an Ikarian genealogy conference planned for May 2020, canceled due to COVID and now rescheduled. Welcome, Topsy. It's good to have you
Thank
here.
you, Greg. Thank you, and welcome. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you for inviting me to have this talk. I think I need to say a little bit about Ikaria first, because a lot of the people tuned in probably might never have heard of Ikaria. It's an unusual island in the North Aegean. I think they best describe it as sort of marching to its own drum. It's always been its own person. We've been conquered by many people, but always been inhabited. And the people here have a different view of life and a different way of expressing. The land is very, very important here, very, very important. And it's one of the problems in genealogy, especially for those people who are trying to trace their ancestry and live abroad. The idea of doing the conference that we had planned for last year, and hopefully might make it this September if COVID is good to us, was to bring them all together, to try and get the people in America to come over or to participate so that they could see what there is available and what there isn't available here. We don't have an awful lot. The idea was the second and the third generation people who didn't talk to their parents, didn't find out which part of the island they came from or which part of which family they came from, to try and tie them in, to let them understand that there are some resources here, but the resources are mainly people. They're mainly the people themselves. We have a way here where people live till 90, 100. In fact, it's quite funny because if you ask somebody, if you hear about a death and you ask somebody, you know, oh, were they very old? They might say to you, not really, only 96, you know. So there's a lot of information there, but to try and get these people to talk is difficult, especially to the Ikarians who live abroad. And that is because when they immigrated, and people from Ikaria have been going over to America in the mid 1800s. My own, one of the reasons I got involved in the Greek side a lot was because I researched my father's brother who went to America in 1870 something. And when they went, there was land, people lived off the land. So now 2-3 generations later, when they come back and say, well, tell me a bit about my great-grandfather or which part of the family do I belong to? People are reluctant to say because there was what we call amirasto, undivided land. And they have this fear that these people are coming, not to find out who their grandfather was or their great-grandfather, but to actually claim the land. And I have that even myself. I mean, I live here on the island and have done, you know, since 2004 permanently. I've lived before that at some time. And our family came down from one of the villages in the interior to the sea in the early 1800s. And when I go back to that village to find out, to try and find out which branch of the Douris families my great-great-grandfather was from, they clam up. They don't want to tell me because they're afraid. And this is one of the problems with doing genealogy here for the people who come over from America. If they've been coming all the time, if their parents and their grandparents brought them back and brought their parents back, then they know where they belong. But I get a lot of information. We have a site on Facebook, Ikarian Family History, and I get a lot of people asking me, you know, my name is like yours. Can you please tell me where I'm from? And it's impossible because you've got to have some information, and they've lost that information. So the idea of the convention was to try and bring that all together. Hopefully, we'll manage to get that done. So our problems here, as far as looking into genealogy, is we don't have an awful lot of records. There's not a lot digitized. I mean, Angeliki over at the GAC is trying their hardest. The attachment to the land is a problem. There are a lot of documentation, an awful lot of documentation, but it's in the baúlo, in the trunk, in the corner. And again, the people are reluctant to give it because they think that somebody's going to take some land off them, you know. I mean, I do know of situations here where three brothers, two of them went abroad and the other ones just claimed and passed it on to his children and his children. And in fact, you know, if somebody came back, they could ask for it because the law says you can't appropriate your relatives' land here in Greece. So you never lose that land. So that is a major problem, the documentation that they keep in the baúlo, in the trunk, and the fact that it's all tied up with this fear of doing. The other thing that we have a problem with is nicknames. Now, I have one myself. A lot of the surnames changed because of the nickname situation. People here give a lot of nicknames. Either the family, the branches of the family are known by a nickname. One of the branches of my own family is known by the name Surabas, which I believe is from one of the women who wore these special clothing. But in some cases, the surname actually changed. There's a family that came over from Asia Minor and started selling yogurt. He used to shout yogurt, yogurt, yogurt. The family is now called Yautas. They have no idea what their surname is, their original surname. So they have a problem getting further back than, they don't even know where in Asia Minor they came from. So we have that problem. We have the problem that in 1912 we joined Greece. So up until then we were Ottoman Empire. So a lot of the documentation was in Turkish, etc. And a lot of people didn't register all their children because we were under the Ottomans, and especially sons. My grandfather was one of presumably 7 brothers. I've only been able to find 3 of them in the male register. I can't find the others. I know they existed because I know they're descendants. And this is another problem we have with the register. When we did join Greece, a little while after, the population was invited to come and register. So what you got was some families registered those that had gone to America. Some families didn't register those people. And then some families didn't register the males because they were scared they were going to send them to the army. And then they also registered some of the ladies with a younger date if they weren't married. So we have that problem as well, is that some of the records are not true. When you ask people, you do get a bit of a help with those born after 1930, because you've got people around who've been to school with people. But the late 1800s, early 1900s, the dates are a little bit iffy. Oral tradition is very, very strong in all Greek communities, and here even so, because we were cut off. We didn't have a lot of connection with Greece and that. So, the people just used to socialize together and the stories were just passed down. But then you do have a problem in trying to find out whether the oral history has been changed as it's been passed down. Again, I can say in my own family, I was looking for my grandmother's sister. I was told one story and then eventually found out that wasn't true. There was another story, all oral again. I'm still trying to prove the second story now with documentation, but with the COVID, I've not been able to do that. We have some surnames, obviously, like we have in all Greece, that are generic to all of Greece. I mean, one of the biggest families on the island is called Mavriori. Now they are Mavriori, Mavriorgis. They have different spellings of their names, different variations of name, but they are all the same family. They are all the same family. So again, if somebody's coming over to find out which part of that family they belong to, if they haven't had that connection as they've been growing up, or their parents haven't, again, it's a bit of a problem. We did have a success with the Syrian family, whose grandfather had immigrated from here, and grandmother, and we actually found which part of the family they belonged to. Our church records are another problem. We didn't have educated, we didn't really have educated priests, and therefore some of them didn't complete the books on the marriages or the baptisms. We're also part, even today, we are part of the Diocese of Samos. And I have learned that there are some books over there, and I know that they've been requested and not been sent back. So we have that problem as well. Some of the priests didn't pass on books, even though they did complete some of it. So to say go to the church records is a problem. Again, I can give you an example with my own daughter. She was born in 1972 and christened here on the island, and there is no record of that christening whatsoever. And that's only 1972. So we have that problem with the church records as well. Family trees, a lot of the people have actually compiled family trees. Hopefully with the convention that we were going, we would help them actually set those trees out. Some are just notes, some are just sort of the name in the middle and lines, etc., going all over the place. We were very lucky, and there's a retired judge on the other side of the island, and he has catalogued all the families in his village, which was fantastic. But if you see the paperwork that he gave me to do this, it took us, two of us, it took us something like 2-3 hours to do a small family tree. You know, he's just sort of got lines here and there, and you're not sure whether they're daughters or sisters or what. So we were hoping with the conference to actually help people compile the trees as well. That was one of the things we were hoping for. Alongside the convention, we started the DNA project. Obviously, with the COVID, that's not gone as successful as we'd hoped. We've up to now, we've got 49, 55 people done. We can't go to the villages to talk to people and to get them to understand that they're not going to go onto some big database and the FBI come along and knock on their door at some point, you know, if they have the DNA test. I'm surprised that you find that some people who you believe or you thought would be interested aren't. And you find other people who you didn't think they would want to do it, and they do. And then the other problem we've got is some of them want to do the DNA just to know the breakdown of their ethnicity, and aren't interested in following that through with other people. And that's very sad, really, because there's people on, we've chose My Heritage to do it with, and I keep staying with the same company. The problem there is that, you know, some people are contacting me because they're initially on one site and saying, oh, we've got a match with so-and-so, you know, and this person doesn't want to match up with them. And so that is sad. I'm trying to convince a few of these people to do thingy. But we have had some very interesting results from the DNA. Very interesting results. Because it's thrown up a couple of people to 2 people from Nigeria, 4 people from Nigeria with Nigerian. Now, I don't think we're ever going to find out what happened here. I can only presume it's something to do with the pirates. But that was quite sort of, you know, not just Africa, but specifically Nigeria. But one of the things that we did find out, because we started to ask, is we have 9 people with Sardinian blood, Sardinian DNA. Now, when we asked about this, one particular person, they said, oh yeah, we know the story about that. Now, the story in the families had been forgotten. They'd been told as children and that was it. They forgot it. When we did their DNA, when they asked to do the DNA and it came out that they had this ardinian connection, they said, oh, yes, I remember, my grandfather told me. And it was about some Sardinian merchant who, there's two bits to this. One is he was kidnapped by the pirates and a ransom was asked for, and it was arranged that it would be transferred. They would do the transfer here in Korea, but he stayed. The other is that he begged for his life, said they could have everything he had, so long as they didn't kill him. And he was put down here in Korea. So that was, we found out where that connection came from. But there are people who've done their DNA who didn't know the story, who obviously had forgotten. We've had some Scandinavian, we've had Finland, but the last one that came about recently was from Papua New Guinea. It's down as Melanesian in my heritage. And that just sort of blew me away, because I thought, hold on, you're talking about the other side of the world, 1%, which you're talking about quite a bit away, quite a bit in the past. Where did this bloke come from? Where did this person come from? Now, they are originally, that family is originally from Asia Minor, and they came to Korea. We had lots of people coming to Korea because they used to come and hide here if they got into trouble with the Ottoman Empire. So we've got people who came from the island of Leros, and we've got a family called Leriadis. We have Parianos from Paros. We had Kalimnos, but they didn't know their surname. It was Poulianos, so they changed later back to the original surname. So people used to come and hide here from other islands. So whether the DNA of those people that we've talked about now is from those people that came, or whether it's from original Ikarians, I don't know. The Greek and South Italian, which is the main ethnicity group for Greeks, they vary from 34% to 89%. So that was interesting, that, you know, and a lot of Asia Minor, which we did expect, because Korea dealt with Smyrna a lot. You know, people used to go over there to work. They used to go, the women especially would go over as paramanes and maids, etc., then come back with a dowry and get married and that. So the DNA is small at the moment. We are about 3,000 people live on the island permanently, but we're about 8,000 to 10,000 actually registered here. So it's only a small group, and I'm hoping that once the COVID goes, we can get around to some of those smaller villages and get people to, you know, but it's going to be an ongoing thing. I don't think it's the type of thing that's going to finish within a year. It's going to take a couple of years to get people. And the idea was that once we did the convention and we got some of these results up, it would actually make people think, oh, I'd like to know that, you know. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing. And hopefully if we get the convention done, maybe we can get more people. But it is a problem here in trying to do your tree. It is very difficult. You can go down one road and find that you're not belonging to that family, you're belonging to another. And the other thing is that some of the people that have done their trees have not done the female line. The Maverick family is very, very big, and my daughter married into it. And one of the gentlemen that actually produced the tree, and they do come from they claim they come from a small pirate boy who escaped. Everybody's from those that escaped the pirates. Nobody is a pirate. No family comes from a pirate, from a specific pirate. They're all from somebody who escaped the pirates. We have quite a few families who claim that. But I had quite a lot to do with this tree, because I helped him put it on the computer, etc. And they have a big Maverick panegyri in the village that they originate from once a year, and you know, I helped put up some trees and that. But he didn't choose to name any of the female lines. It's just George Maverick, he married a Maria. Which Maria? You know, and at the end of the story, at the end of the line, you know, we're made up of two parents, not one. So that is a problem. So hopefully with the convention, we can get that across. And, you know, I've done a few trees here on the island for people who have asked me, and I've left those with Angelique the GAC on a CD and in a printed form. And hopefully when we've finished with the convention and we've collected the trees and we'll put them in GAC to do. And I'm hoping that we will do a website eventually. I do have one for the Douris family with trees on, and hopefully we'll do an Ikarian one at some point. But what we need is the convention first, to bring everybody together and to bring people out of the shadows and help them come along with their stories, etc., as well as their trees, and more DNA to be able to put onto a site.
When is the conference for?
Well, we're not thinking of before September, because I don't think anybody's going to be moving anywhere before September. Right. Greece is started to vaccinate, but obviously we're not. It's going to take a while. But whether we'll manage it in September, because the people here on the island are very interested. We got an awful lot of interest from the people here. But I do know that the Ikarians in America and in Australia are really interested in you know, coming and connecting, because it will give them a chance to connect with people at the convention, and maybe, you know, maybe they can say something that triggers somebody's mind that actually then remembers where they're from, you know. As I say, I've got a couple of people who I can't help because there's not enough information. Right. And it's sad. You feel as if, you know, you're letting people down. But hopefully, you know, eventually Korea will get on the map. As far as I look at the records you do, Greg, and I think, oh, this is wrong, you know. And now listening to the two speakers previously, you know, they should have been born in Korea, and then we'd have all this information for Korea, you know. We need somebody to do a project. We're doing our best. We are doing our best. But COVID really has done bad for us.
Now that you're mentioning it, we are going to make an announcement at the end of the conference today, and I think both you and Ioannis are going to be interested in this. I'm not expecting you to stay up that late, but yeah, you can watch it later on YouTube. Thank you, Topsy. Very interesting, and I think it's really interesting because many things of what you said, they connect to what Ioannis said about insularity, isolation and connectivity. And the Marmara Islands, Ikaria, they both had this coming and go of populations and connections with distant places no one could ever think of.